Hey everybody, and welcome to Nerdium, a podcast where two grown men decided being an adult is an awful lot of hard work, so instead decided to take a break from the world of adulting and turn their attentions to the fun side of life. Things like comics, video games, movies, and of course television. And today, kids, Matt and I have put in a hard day's work, finished all our chores, and have managed to successfully hide from our partners so we can finally put our feet up, open a nice cold beer, and watch some TV. And while we channel surf through a near endless variety, we find ourselves asking, is it just me or is everything on TV based on a comic? So join Matt and I as we sift through the near and endless variety of television shows based off of our favorite comics and superheroes, what's working, what's not working, and what got canceled for what could best be described as just throwing spaghetti on a wall and seeing what sticks. All right, Matt, you hit the TV button first. And no, the TV button. No, you just give me the give me the remote, Matt. Just give me the. Damn it! Just hit the music this time.
So this week's episode, we're going to be talking about all those superhero things going on in the media right now, like video games, TV series.
It is an exciting time to be alive if you're a superhero nut.
It is, but at some same time, you're kind of getting a little bit of a superhero hangover now.
I find the market to be a little oversaturated, but only because, the two main big names in superheroes, they're kind of going at each other with a one-upmanship. We kind of brought this up in another episode where they don't really need to be carrying on the way that they carry on. Mm-hmm. But I understand that everybody wants a slice of the pie and everybody wants their slice to be a little bit bigger than the other guys. But there is a risk of fatigue and there's always that real big risk of pushing out a product that's not quite ready to go yet.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be getting to that with the TV series. Starting off, we're going to be talking about the new latest rumor of Rocksteady coming out with a Superman video game.
Now, I know you have to be excited about that one.
Yeah. I am excited. I'm also very cautiously optimistic about it.
I think the right people are handling it. Like, I was super, super cautious. I remember when Rocksteady was handling the Arkham Asylum game. And I bought it. I'm like, you know what? I've played all the Batman games. I'm just going to go for it. I was not disappointed. From the opening credits to the closing credits, I couldn't get enough. And that series, with the exception of maybe Origins, was an amazing series.
Mm-hmm. They did a really good job with that.
So I think it's in good hands.
Yeah. Although it was previously announced, I think last year, or rumored last year that it was going to happen. And then Rocksteady denied that they were working on a Superman game, so...
Well, leaks and all this sort of jazz, you know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I totally didn't do that. I totally did do that. Yes, we are. No, we're not. I mean, it's the idea that they might deny something that they're working on to avoid any further pressing.
Yeah.
I can't say it would be beyond them.
Well, they were also, there was that rumor that they were working on a Flash game too for a little while.
I had heard the Flash, and I think I think it's a lot easier to do a Flash game than it is to do a Superman game.
Mm-hmm.
Only because the world that you have to work with Superman needs to be huge.
Yeah.
When you play like Injustice 1 or 2, like the huge combo there, you're knocking them up in the space, you're knocking them in the air and basically punching them from one coast all the way to the other.
Yeah.
You need a big swath of space to deal with Superman. The Flash, you can be a little bit more contained. You could deal with like more of an Arkham City, in this case Central City, but like more of a contained zone.
So what was included in the rumor, it was apparently leaked on 4chan, which you gotta take those with a grain of salt.
the credible source that is 4chan.
Yeah. But the rumor says it's supposed to be unveiled in this year's E3 in June.
Only a few weeks away.
It is. It's supposed to be set in the Arkhamverse, which is good, because that's a pretty good sandbox that Rocksteady's come up with.
Yeah, it is.
Supposed to be a big open world that you previously mentioned. It's supposed to be 3 times the size of Arkham Knight's world.
I think my biggest one is, are they going to have ring missions where we just fly through rings nonstop?
Oh, God, I hope not. I really hope not. More rumors is there won't be any Clark play. So unlike where in Arkham you could do like that couple of missions here and there with Bruce, which didn't really...
They didn't really amount to anything. Like, you have like the opening sequence where he kind of beats the ever-loving piss out of some penguin goons. Mm-hmm. And that was about it. I can't really remember much in the way of Bruce Wayne doing Bruce Wayne stuff, even in Arkham Knight.
There was a little bit there with the Hush stuff.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was kind of minor. It was more of a side mission than anything else. Interesting
little kind of story tweak there. The main baddie is supposed to be Brainiac, which is kind of following the coattails of Krypton, where he is the ever-popular villain right now for that series.
You need something like somebody stoic and powerful. I think Lex Luthor could do a job, but too much subterfuge and all that sort of stuff. Brainiac doesn't need to be sneaky. He can just be in your face and be enough of a threat.
Yeah. I think Zod probably wouldn't be a very good pick either. I think Brainiac's probably the right pick for it.
Yeah. I could see a lot of like Zod, Non, and Ursa Easter eggs all over the place.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to go for like a huge story arc, Brainiac's the way to go.
Yeah. And then for dealing with the complexities of a Superman game, rumor is that Superman will be nerfed just so that he's not the omnipotent kind of character he can be.
Well, in Injustice, they had the super pill. So,
yeah, there's that.
You know, amp everybody up. Well, in this case, you got to tone him down.
Yeah. The environments will be semi-destructible, so some stuff will break, but it's not going to be the citywide Metropolis remodel that was done in Man of Steel.
Just too bad, because that would actually be really cool. Just take out a skyscraper, just boom, just a huge brawl, just take out a city block.
It'd be pretty bad though if like it just kind of never reloaded or anything. So at one point you're just playing
in a giant rubble box.
Yeah. The combat system will integrate flying, and as you mentioned, there'll be lots of Superman Easter eggs. So that's what the rumors are saying.
I think you're kind of obligated to put in Easter eggs, especially for a game like that. I mean, look at what they did with all the Batman Arkham games. Like, it was just, even if it was just the most subtle nod, it doesn't even have to be a side mission or whatever. It's just enough for like the real big Superman fans out there like yourself to just go, aha, and really enjoy those references and really get into. I know it worked for me with Batman, so if you're more leaning to the Superman side, you got to do that for those fans.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so as we all know, that Superman games have had issues in the past. As you mentioned, the little kind of dig at Superman 64 there. So
still rated one of the worst games ever made.
Yeah,
I grew up in the Atari era, so that says something.
Yeah, it's right up there with the Atari ET game.
That's right. They are both one and the same.
It was a terrible game. Like, I was so excited being a kid growing up and loving Superman, picking up the 64 cartridge, plugging it in, and then being stuck on like mission 2 or whatever it was with those goddamn rings.
But they had that problem in a 3D environment with just about every superhero game that they released. Like, I had Aquaman for the GameCube. That was a brutal game, similar to the vein of Superman 64, where just invisible walls, just a bad 3D camera, horrible controls, just gross attempt at a superhero game.
And that would have that'd be kind of when they kind of retconned Aquaman, where he's actually kind of a decent, kind of relevant character now.
Yeah, if I remember, I think it was the version of Aquaman that still had the hook for a hand.
Okay.
The big long like ZZ Top beard, the long flowing hair. Like, it was that Aquaman that.
Okay, so he was not like the couple versions before that when he's pretty useless.
Yeah, no, it was when he was when we moved away from the 80s and we had to get a more edgier Aquaman because he was very fastly becoming a running joke.
Yeah.
They made him a lot edgier, made him a lot tougher, gave him the hook, made him more of like a rough and tumble, almost like seafaring captain more than anything else.
Okay.
But it was just a brutal game.
Well, some of the challenges that they have to face, so like even with Superman Returns, the video game for, I believe it was PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, like the game mechanics were fun, but like it wasn't a compelling enough story. Had a lot of the same issues of most of the superhero games, is just that you're very limited in what you can do.
Yeah.
Like some of the challenges they face are like creating a compelling enough world that doesn't seem to confine flying or super speed or anything like that.
Well, that's the thing about a lot of superhero games. Like growing up with like the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, one of the best things you got was a side scroller. Mm-hmm. Like there you go, Batman or Superman go from one side of the screen to the left side of the screen, punching and kicking, or I-beam shooting their way through. It was what it was. When we moved into like the 3D area, it was really hard to get that natural feel. Mm-hmm. The first time I kind of felt it was for the PS1, and it was a Spider-Man game where it wasn't open world, but I could zip up to the ceiling, I could zip to the side wall, I could do whatever I wanted to do. And then shortly after that, for the PS2, we had the tie-in to the Spider-Man 2 movie, and that was the first time I ever felt being a superhero. Like, you felt like you were swinging around like Spider-Man.
It was a pretty well done game. I remember that one where
not the first one where you were like kind of like more or less going down a tube.
Yeah.
But the second one was really fully open world.
Yeah, the open world web sling was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever turn on like the advanced web sling where it was like alternating thumbsticks?
Yes. It did not bode well for me. I quickly turned it back off and enjoyed the game properly.
One of the issues with creating a Superman game is you're creating like basically a character that has all the cheat codes active all the time, like God mode, unlimited.
You just type in God mode and off you go.
Yeah. So of course you're gonna have to nerf them a little bit. Otherwise, you're not going to create a game where the stakes are real and players don't become invested or can relate to the character.
It doesn't take too. I mean, it obviously it takes quite a bit of effort for a good narrative to go where you can deal with that. But I mean, they look at what they did with Injustice. You know, how do you get a bunch of superheroes that Superman could just pull apart? Mm-hmm. You know, like the wings off of a fly. You really have to figure out a way to either nerf him down or bring everybody up. Mm-hmm. So it's not impossible to do as long as it's done properly.
Yeah, and those plot devices are out there. Like they've used them in the comics and TV series and all that. So you got like the Kryptonite or Red Sun stuff that can kind of dumb them down a little bit. One of the TV series that kind of really did a good approach at making a Superman that wasn't like all powerful and difficult to write was Smallville. They did a good job at slowly introducing powers and putting limitations on those powers, and there was that learning curve. So if they were able to make a game that had that without it being like pointless, like, oh, Superman had amnesia or something, he doesn't remember how to use his flying.
Yeah, he totally forgot he could fly.
Like if you did like a young Superman where he's learning how to use those abilities, that could be a relevant game.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if you had, if they're going to use Brainiac, they have a near infinite amount of possibilities. He's got the technology, he's got the know-how. Mm-hmm. You know, even if he puts a giant contact lens on the sun that just hampers some of the ultraviolet that gives Superman his powers, that would be enough to at least slow Superman down.
So moving on to the massive amount of superhero / comic book TV shows that we have out there. Like just looking at the list I made, I know I'm forgetting them, a couple of them. Like we have The Flash, we have Arrow, we have Legends, Supergirl, Black Lightning, Legion, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Daredevil, Punisher, Luke Cage, Preacher, Lucifer, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Inhumans, The Gifted, The Runaways, Gotham, Krypton, iZombie, Walking Dead, and Marvel Defenders.
Yeah, no shortage of comic book stuff out there.
No, and I am forgetting a couple of them.
And I keep forgetting that Lucifer was actually on that list.
Yeah, Lucifer was, I believe, was it Dark Horse?
Sure.
It's a DC entity, but
it had to be either Dark Horse or Vertigo, and I can't remember who owns which one.
I think DC might own both.
I thought Marvel had one and DC had the other.
Okay, so he's a DC, so I think it's Vertigo actually.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go with that.
It works for me.
All right, so just recently, if you look at a lot of the ratings for pretty much any of the superhero TV shows, a lot of them are dropping about 25 to 30% in viewership this year.
It's hard to keep superhero shows relevant.
Yep.
Like after about 4 or 5 seasons, you know, you really do have to go to the beginning. Mm-hmm. You know, you can take somebody like The Flash and you can go through his whole rogues gallery, knocking one off after, you know, one bad guy off after another, episode after episode, maybe a couple of 2-parters, maybe like The Flash does, huge story arcs. Okay, that's fine, that's lovely. But just like our comic books, well, just because Batman beat the Joker, or just because Superman beat Metallo or Lex Luthor, eventually they're going to fight again. They have to go back to that, and they have to have a pretty viable plot device. Mm-hmm. It's just that on our TV shows, Well, we're not reading, it's not a 20-page issue once a month that we go through. It's once a week, and then every now and then you get a little bit of break, but you're blowing through the stories pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you're watching every one of those shows weekly, you're looking at 22 hours of TV.
Yeah.
Every week, on top of everything else.
And that's great if you have the time to put in that much time into TV. But, that being said, how much superhero can you really absorb before, you just need a change.
Yep.
Like, I love my superhero show. Like, I think, there was a point in time where I lived and breathed Gotham and The Flash. Like, I couldn't get enough. Mm. Well, eventually it starts to wear down on you. There's certain things that bring you back, but you calm down after that initial first or second season.
And I think we're starting to get to that point because we're starting to see the first few casualties of the lower viewership and seeing just too much on the plate right now. Like, we're getting Lucifer just got canceled.
Which surprised me because I know Lucifer has a pretty huge following.
It's, the initial viewership for the first season was decent. Second season was quite low. And then this one's even lower. However, its fan base, like its diehard fan base, is very involved and very active in it. Yeah. So it's almost like a cult following for it. But I guess it's just not enough to keep up with Fox.
Well, look at what happened with Firefly.
Yeah,
and I mean that is for sci-fi geeks out there. Like, Firefly is it. Like, even if you've ever had like Geekbox or Loot Crate or anything, like, there's always Firefly stuff in there. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no shortage of Firefly fans, but they just can't. There's not enough for a network to go, what's a good idea? Another season of Firefly.
Yeah. Fox has always been pretty quick to pull the trigger on series that aren't performing as well as
they have a habit of going, this is your numbers, you make it or you're gone.
Mm-hmm. And then we have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that are now on the chopping block. It's been announced that next season will probably be its last season.
I heard that their next season's not coming out until 2019 though.
Yeah, and it's going to be, I think, only 6 episodes.
Yeah, but I mean, how long has Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. been on? It feels like it's been on for like 5 or 6 years.
I think it's the next season will be its 6th season.
That's not too bad for a TV series.
No.
Like, that's a pretty good run. It's not Seinfeld, but it's not axed after the first couple of episodes either.
Yeah, it's no Inhumans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But speaking of casualties, Inhumans was definitely one of the casualties.
Yeah.
But I often wonder if that maybe wasn't Marvel just trying to just throw something else out there.
Yeah.
I never ever wanted to watch the Inhumans. I know of the Inhumans from like reading Marvel back in the day, so I know the story of the Inhumans. Mm. But just seeing the previews, I'm like, 1990s Sci-Fi Channel special effects don't really appeal to me.
Yeah. Well, Marvel's really kind of taken to the spaghetti approach with throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. So
yeah, I mean, hey, they got the money to play that game.
Yeah.
They definitely flooded Netflix with a lot of stuff. And Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, solid. Iron Fist, nah.
Not so much.
Not so much at all.
One of the things where Marvel is very different from DC is Marvel TV series often rely heavily on what's going on in the MCU, and it's kind of a supplemental kind of...
Yeah, well, that was the whole idea of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that their story was just they were going to be the cleanup crew for the Avengers, right?
Yeah.
And that's cool that they do that, but I think like when you go through like the 3 tiers of superhero media, you got your big blockbuster movies, you got your Netflix series, and then you got your regular cable TV shows. Mm-hmm. To tie them all together, that's cool that you can do that. But I don't think it's really necessary.
Yeah.
Like the big blockbuster movies, you want to tie all those together? Cool. Have at her. I don't think enough people, especially nowadays, TV isn't the medium that it used to be in the early 2000s, pre-Netflix, pre-Hulu, pre-Amazon Prime, pre-streaming services.
Yeah.
It's hard to really make people care.
Yep. And then also, so Gotham, another one that's kind of on there. It's got renewed for its 5th and final season, and it's going to be a shorter season from what I've heard.
Yeah, well, that was another show that kind of suffered from the carrot on the stick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if they just wanted to stick with here's Jim Gordon doing Jim Gordon stuff, that would have been pretty good. Even with all the Indian Hill craziness, I was on board. I think the thing that throws off Gotham is the actual Bruce Wayne narrative.
It does. It kind of it distracts from...
Yep.
Because Jim Gordon was kind of tabled as being the main protagonist, kind of the badass cop that goes and
that's what I was expecting.
Yep.
And I didn't mind these weird, subtle little aha nods. Like, it appealed to me as a big Batman fan, to be sure.
Yeah.
But slowly and surely it was more and more Bruce Wayne. Like, I understand that Bruce Wayne's parent being killed is like the start of the series.
Yeah.
But to the degree that Bruce Wayne's transition became the main story, it took away what was supposed to be a real gritty, weird crime drama.
Yeah. And it turned into more of like just, even when Jim Gordon was on screen, he was merely just kind of a light protagonist. It was just more of like a vehicle to show off Batman's rogue gallery. That's all it really was. Pretty much. He wasn't really necessarily out there busting bad guys or anything. He was basically running head on into these Batman villains. And
it wasn't... If any Jim Gordon story you've ever read for Jim Gordon, it wasn't the Jim Gordon that you would expect to see. I liked it. I still enjoy it, but I mean, it's not without a lot of faults, and it hasn't. The faults that it has have not been removed or improved. Mm-hmm. That being said, their little weird Joker tie-in sort of thing there, it's really, really cool. Again, really appealed to me as a Batman fan, but it seems like it detracted from what was supposed to be a Gotham City police crime drama. Yeah.
Most of the shows, they're having difficulties on, like, as we talked about, on the big networks there, like Fox and NBC or whatever. But they seem to be still doing fairly well on other networks like AMC, FX, and then like the streaming services like Netflix.
But those to me seem to be more little niche shows. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like take The Walking Dead, for instance. Like, it has a monstrous comic book following.
Yeah.
But you can do things in The Walking Dead on AMC that you definitely can't do on ABC or NBC. Mm-hmm. And you probably can't really do with Fox on primetime.
Yeah, definitely not.
You know what I mean? Like on FX, AMC, these are like big, the bonus cable packages.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit more leeway. They don't have to curtail to the typical, I guess what we'd call our typical cable package network providers.
Yeah.
They have a little bit of extra money, and they don't have some of the same restrictions that a lot of these other ones do.
Mm-hmm. So, like, if you look at a lot of the CW shows, like the Arrowverse shows, those are kind of the ones that are experiencing a lot of the big drops too. Like, I think all of them are seeing drops between 25 to 31%.
It doesn't surprise me, because the CW, if you watch all the Arrowverse shows, they do kind of like lock into a certain audience, and you may or may not be that kind of an audience. I know, like, I kind of fell out of the Legends of Tomorrow, but like the Arrow, I couldn't get past season 1, but apparently Arrow was the better of the series. I don't mind watching Supergirl on Netflix, but I don't go out of my way to watch it when it comes on. And Flash, I just kind of fell out of, like, it just... Barry Allen just kept going back and making things worse and worse, and it was just this circle of irritability that I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to take a break. I'll wait for you to get on Netflix there and catch up.
Yeah, I also dropped out of Legends just because I couldn't really kind of relate to any of the storylines that were going on, because they didn't really kind of follow any kind of established story arc. They kind of took a handful of characters that sometimes don't even really kind of associate with each other. And
yeah, after the first season, where they were dealing with Vandal Savage, then it just started getting really spotty and weird.
Yeah,
and then I just couldn't, with time being as precious as it is for everybody, I just couldn't be bothered to keep up with it anymore. It became too complex for its own well-being.
Mm-hmm. And then Arrow is Arrow's got the biggest, I think, drop in viewership right now. And you're seeing a lot of the actors, well, not a lot, but a couple of the actors are now leaving the show. So
it could be a big case. I remember, I think it was the definitely late 90s is when the nonsense started, but the early 2000s with reality TV. And you couldn't turn on TV without it being some god-awful reality show. And they always got progressively worse.
Yeah.
We went through that whole phase where everything had to be a reality show. Eventually that, there was the twilight on that where now you still have a couple of them, but it's not the nonsense that it was earlier.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of superhero shows are starting to show that now. That and I mean, the writing staff often changes, I find, in like these smaller syndicated shows. Mm-hmm. So the continuity of storytelling doesn't always go as smoothly as it could be.
No. And the show producers and writers for both Marvel and DC, they seem to now, like in their later seasons, are having difficulties coming up with relatable and good content. And they're always trying to, seems like they're always trying to one-up the last impossible situation they got themselves into. And they tend to write themselves into corners, and then they have to use silly plot devices, like in The Flash with, time travel and, some of the shows where magics all of a sudden bring back people that have died because, unfortunately, the plot can't go any further with this character dead, so you have to bring them back.
Well, the thing is that in a lot of cases, especially in the DC universe, and I can't speak for the Marvel universe, you always have the Lazarus pit. You have Ra's al Ghul. He's in and out of the Lazarus pit. You can bring somebody back to life. That was established canon ages ago.
Yeah. How
many times you can use that MacGuffin? I'm not too sure. Maybe once or twice. Then after that, it's the Lazarus pit. Okay, I know how this episode's gonna go.
Yeah.
But again, that's the problem with TV is that they have these shows, they have them out there, and they don't want to just stop when they're on top. They don't want to pull the Seinfeld, where we're the highest rated show. Let's just call it a day. They want to just run it right into the ground. They want to squeeze every last drop out of there, and it kind of suffers in the long run.
Yeah.
Because the next time, DC, let's say, runs The Flash into the ground, deep underground. The next time DC comes out with a show, is it going to be another Flash? We're going to remember the last season of The Flash. We're not going to remember the first couple of seasons of The Flash.
Yeah, and it goes back to just a lot of networks and studios that are just trying to basically catch on to the...
Just kind of capitalize on that superhero fervor that's going on.
Yeah, and they might not necessarily understand the audience that they're preparing it for.
Yeah.
And you are going to burn a lot of people doing that.
And like I said earlier, when you have the 3 tiers of superhero or comic book, let's call it comic book media.
Yeah.
Most of us, when we find out a superhero show is coming out on TV, we typically think of our superhero intake from big blockbuster movies. Mm-hmm. You have the Avengers, Batman, Superman, the Justice League, but your big blockbuster movies. Well, when it's suddenly on your TV right in front of you as a weekly show, it's not going to be the same thing, but they try their best to kind of give you that same experience, and it just can't happen. It's not going to happen.
No, it's a lot to have a 20 episode season or more.
Yeah.
That's a lot of content that you're going to have to pump out, and it's going to start getting watered down. Whereas that's probably why you get the Netflix and the other channels that are doing smaller seasons, 10, 13 episodes.
It does. They're almost better to just give it in small doses than anything else. A lot of everybody's getting into the streaming services now.
Yeah,
I know DC. They're getting ready. If not, I think they're getting ready to launch their DC streaming service. It is. Yeah. It's coming. It's coming. Some point in time. I didn't do the research to go through it on the episode here, but I know it's coming. They may very well be able to do something a little bit better on a streaming service, let's say Jessica Jones on Netflix. That's a solid series. Same with Luke Cage.
Yeah.
Even The Punisher and Daredevil was fantastic.
Yeah.
They might be able to really get a hold of that and really, really work it well. So we might be seeing a lot of these TV weekly drama things just kind of more or less moving to a different service that might have a bit of a bigger budget. Like,
Yeah.
let's face it, Netflix has money to throw around. They take the spaghetti approach. They'll put anything out there and see what sticks.
But they seem to also maybe understand the audiences that they're trying to appeal to a little bit better.
Well, yeah, not to take anything. Netflix does it pretty well for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, the running gag is that they'll give anybody their own series. But, I mean, they do, especially for the superhero stuff, they do a pretty good job. But I think that's where the world's kind of moving. I don't think, even our regular weekly TV shows, you know, it's Grey's Anatomy for the sake of a TV show. The way we watch TV is slowly starting to change. And networks are having a really hard time trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us would just rather sit down and binge something on a weekend because we can do other stuff during the week and know that we're not going to miss anything on our favorite show.
Yeah. Well, Netflix has already announced that they're going to start focusing most of their budget on developing shows in the sci-fi fantasy genre. So.
Well, they can keep having my money then.
Yeah. They do somewhat okay with the Netflix original comedies. They don't do a whole lot with the dramas. The comedies is mostly just like whatever they have Adam Sandler on deck for.
Yeah, well, yeah. Or anybody that's willing to take a paycheck from them.
Yeah, which
the Chappelle ones were actually pretty good.
Yeah, they weren't too bad.
But like they, you know, as Netflix moves on, that's because Netflix, I think, kind of understands their viewership a little bit more. I mean, they can look at their trends right out of the gate.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have to deal with Nielsen ratings. They don't have to do it. They can just simply look at a server and go, that's what people are watching, and walk away in seconds.
Yeah, real-time kind of data. So.
Yeah. So it's a little bit easier for them to kind of cater the service towards us fine, fantastic, geeky people.
Mm-hmm. And as for kind of networks and services tailoring, like AMC shows are fairly safe for being canceled because there seems to be less competition on AMC original slates. So that's when you get like your Walking Deads and all that. And there's just, they don't have as much to compete with. So they're willing to kind of let it run a little bit longer.
Yeah, but AMC is what Netflix kind of is, right? They have money to throw at originals. They're typically pretty successful with their original series.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have too much baggage.
No.
And they don't have to worry about a lot of syndicated programming. They got licenses for over-censored movies. Boom. Throw the censored version of The Godfather down. There's a 3-hour time block. We have less to worry about that way.
Yep. And then FX with Legion, its ratings are way down, but it's only in the second season, so they're still kind of waiting to see what happens with it. It's just getting started, and FX has this kind of almost the same approach as AMC, where they're really patient with some of their shows, where they're willing to let them develop a little bit more.
Well, look at for FX, look at American Horror Story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they let those dice roll and roll and roll and roll.
Yeah.
You know, and for the most part, they're all pretty good. And Legion, I remember watching the first little bit of Legion. It's a cool show. Like it's something worth watching. It's nice, dark, gritty if you're really into that kind of stuff. But again, it kind of plays into just the saturated market.
Yeah, and yeah, like it's not exactly the most exciting or action packed.
No, you have to be willing to sit through the drama and the story.
Yeah,
it's not we're gonna go out and kick some wicked ass.
Yeah,
it's feel the burn, watch the story, feel that drama build up inside. It's something to experience. It's not just kind of like the Flash runs around the corner, beats the shit out of a couple of people, calls it a day.
Yeah, and you really have to pay attention to like the subtle nuances in that that show, because they give you little hints on what's going on that you don't necessarily pick up on if you're not paying attention.
No, exactly. But that's Legion. Those kind of superhero shows, they're typically geared towards a different audience, though.
Yeah, more of maybe a mature kind of audience.
Yeah, somebody that's deep into the books, somebody that's deep into the lore, but also somebody that has that patience to sit down and watch a story. You know, the CW audience, and I am a member of that audience, are not the same audience that you make Legion for.
No, exactly. It's the quick gratification.
For sure. For sure. When I watch the CW stuff, it really is just for... I'm just here to watch it. I'm not looking for a tense plot. I'm not looking for, a whole lot of thought process. I'm really just here to put my feet up on the table for a little bit and watch some TV.
Mm-hmm. Well, like Legion, it's made by the same creators that made Fargo.
Yeah.
Fargo's a great TV series, but it's very slow moving, and you're kind of watching the story as it unfolds, and then you don't really get that like holy shit moment you get at the end of the series, or at the end of the season. You get, oh well, shit.
Yeah.
Kind of experience. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Like your mind's not like blown from the kind of the action, but at the same time it's like kind of a little bit of a mind twist there.
Yeah, it's if you've ever sat down and watched Tarantino's Hateful Eight, it's a long movie.
I just started watching it today.
if you're not ready for it, it's a long movie. But you got to be willing to sit through that, watch the nuances with the characters, kind of go through this. It's a long, drawn out story. It really is 5 or 6 people in a cabin, man. You got to want to be able to sit through that. I loved it. Mm-hmm. My girlfriend hated it. So, but I mean, I knew what to kind of expect, right? Like, I'm a huge Tarantino fan. I can understand most of his movies for the most part, as far as I can understand them.
Yeah.
But she was going in thinking it was going to be a Tarantino loud Kill Bill bloodbath, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of expecting another Inglourious Bastards, and then started today. I haven't got through it yet. I had to kind of turn it off for a bit. But, it's slow, and it's very heavy-handed in the dialogue.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just it. You could do a superhero show like that, like Legion, but it's for a unique audience. It's not for your typical superhero comic book audience.
Yeah. And then moving on to like the streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, Crave, all that. The streaming channels, they don't publish their stats, so it's really difficult to kind of get a feel on what shows are on the chopping block, how they're performing.
They publish it when they have a whole lot to brag about.
Yeah, even then though, they don't necessarily publish the numbers.
Yeah, they're not too exact. Everybody seems to be playing their hand close to their chest.
Yeah,
but you can typically gauge it by just how quickly they renew it.
Yeah, there's that, and also you rely heavily on kind of viewer reviews too. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. Now it's out. How many thumbs up did it get?
Yeah, how many stars on IMDb or?
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's you with all the streaming services out there. Even that can be kind of like a dicey game, because if all of a sudden everybody has a streaming service, well, you start. There's only so much money in my back pocket to pay for streaming services.
Yeah, like I haven't even started watching the newest series of the Tick.
I haven't been able to watch the first one, and I love the Tick.
Well, like I mean, like the series at all. Like I think it's on its season 2. I haven't even started the first season yet. No, it's another one of those things on my list, but it's on a streaming service that I don't have currently, and I probably won't get just because I don't want to have a huge collection of streaming services. Yeah,
exactly. It's everybody's vying for extra money. Give me a little bit of money, I can give you this. Well, that's great, but it's like Netflix. When I first got Netflix, I had it for 3 months and I canceled it for about 3.5-4 years.
Yeah.
I got it. Yep. Looked around. That's fantastic. Canceled it. And then came back years later to what it is now, which is a far better value for my dollar. But
yeah, they went through a few years of struggling where you go on and they were having just terrible content. It was just B-level movies that they're throwing up just to kind of fill space. And a
lot of that has to do with our region too, because we live in Canada. We don't get the same Netflix experience as somebody in the States, and somebody in Europe doesn't get the same experience as somebody in North America. Mm-hmm. So it's all, and that's another thing that just drives me nuts with streaming services. Am I going to get what you have, or am I going to get the Canadian version of what you have? Because
exactly.
Nowadays we live in the world of the internet. It's not hard for me to find what I want to really find without having to spend too much money.
It's a little annoying that they kind of clamped down on that workaround with the VPNs there, where you can kind of go around with Netflix a little bit, but It's more difficult now.
If you have enough time in a day, about 15 minutes, you can find whatever you want to watch online.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't mind paying for content. Just give me the content.
Yeah. It's all about like the EA games paywalls and all that stuff again, eh?
Yeah, it's all. It's just, I've given you the money. Just give me what you got.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I can't because I happen to live so many miles north of the 67th.
Yeah. You can't tell me that doesn't like the cold.
Yeah, right. Like that's just silliness.
Yeah. One of the series that actually kind of caught a lot of people off guard this year, or last year, was The Gifted. I haven't actually watched the season yet because I've had so much to...
I never got a chance to watch it.
I have it PVR'd. So once the seasons die down, it'll be my off-season thing, especially since Game of Thrones isn't coming back until next year. But originally it was kind of expected to be kind of a rehash of the TV show Heroes, with very similar concept of superpowered people being hunted down and superpowered person's father all of a sudden getting involved and have to kind of protect that person.
I remember reading the premise for The Gifted and going, it's Heroes all over again, which was actually a really solid show up until like the final couple of seasons.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed Heroes as like a superhero drama sort of story arc. It was fun.
Yeah, season 1 was really kind of compelling. Season 2 was okay.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Season 3 and 4 kind of, I don't know what happened there.
Again, change of writers. You know, these things always happen.
Yeah, and season 1, like how it ended. If they just kind of maybe committed to how they ended it rather than pulling back and playing the old comic book game, but it was still an enjoyable couple seasons there. But for Gifted, though, apparently it's much better. Has more of a reminiscent feel to the Logan movie.
Okay.
I've seen clips. I've read stuff about it. I've heard from fans. It sounds like a solid show. Let's see if they can repeat it for season 2.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about a lot of superhero TV shows. Like it's really hard when you get that first season of Bottled Lightning. You open it up, you let it out, and then you got to bottle it back up again. It never really quite goes back in the same way. And that's that. And then that is one of the greater problems with superheroes. And again, I say this for network television because I think streaming services can go about it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think network TV, it's a lot harder. You got NBC has to compete with all the other guys all at once at the same time every week.
Mm-hmm.
You put a TV show on at 8 o'clock, you have to compete with everything that's on at 8 o'clock, and now including all the streaming services.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll see. I think right now we're getting a bad case of the Inhumans. I think we're getting a little too saturated for our own well-being.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to stop, take a breather, let the dust die down, and then come back. You know, maybe keep one or two really, really solid ones, but I think it's time. I think what we're seeing right now on the network shows is more or less the network twilight of a lot of superhero shows. It's hard to keep going because you can't go back to the beginning and start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're the Flash, in which case that's a cheap MacGuffin, and you shouldn't be doing that shit. Knock it off.
Yeah, and a lot of fans, they want to see more of the big heavy hitters like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, X-Men, like Avengers. They want to see them in some of these shows, but the way the contracts and licensing are, it's off limits. So like with Gotham, actually using the name Joker is off limits. Just alluded to like crazy.
But, all over the place, yeah, for sure. For
branding purposes, they can't just say he's the Joker.
And that's just kind of silly, too. You like, I understand licensing and I understand agreements and all that jazz, but on the same token, like, you know, it's Gotham City.
Yeah.
To say you can't say the Joker, you can't say Batman, you can't say this, you can't say that, it's like, well, what do you... Come on. like, who are we trying to fool here?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so we have to do all these sly little nods to the side and all this. It's like, come on, man. That's not what the fans want. If we're making TV shows because you read the reviews, we're doing it for the fans, not the millions of dollars that are coming into our pockets, then do it for the fans. Don't be playing that nonsensical game.
No, after a while it gets kind of insulting to the fans.
It irks me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like if we want to play the, let's take DC for instance. Like, I understand you want to keep the Trinity for the big, the Batman, the Superman, the Wonder Woman. You want to keep that for the big screen,
which is
cool.
If you're gonna do that though, do the big screen well.
Yeah, exactly. If that's the game you want to play, do it well for sure.
Yeah.
Same thing on the Marvel side. You want to keep all the Avengers and the X-Men over here on the big screen, then do a good job with them. Don't just half-ass it because I'm going to show up. I'm only going to show up and get pissed off so many times before I stop showing up.
Which is why a lot of the shows, I think, are getting the decreased viewership now.
Yeah, exactly, because it's kind of run its course, and they're looking at this saying, like, either do something different or call it a day. The Flash really suffers from it in a big way. And I use the Flash just because that's the one I kind of watch more than any of the others. It's like, how many times are we going to do this? Like, at the core, we're still telling the exact same story, and it's starting to get obnoxious.
Yeah, and I think even the showrunners now have realized that they've kind of overdone it with the time travel, because now you get into situations where they even kind of go like, well, Barry could just go back in time and fix it, but then Barry's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So
exactly, and the thing is, like, time travel, it's like the time travel in Star Trek. Like, once or twice fine, but you start doing it more than that, like, you start really messing stuff up. And not as in, you're messing stuff up in your universe. I mean, you're messing the show up.
Yeah.
With the Flash, they had a brilliant opportunity with the multiverse. Mm-hmm. Go to whatever Earth you want. Whatever version you want. They could have played with that until the cows came home. But they went with the time travel. Like, you really missed an opportunity.
Yeah. And then with like shows like Supergirl, some of the most popular episodes were the episodes where Superman showed up. So
yeah,
that's kind of a rough kind of gamble that you're playing with there too. So,
well, exactly, because what are the fans really telling you?
Yeah.
And obviously, there's no licensing issue with Superman there for some reason.
Yeah.
So, maybe it's time for a decent Superman show.
As I've mentioned in previous episodes, I've actually really enjoyed Smallville.
Yeah.
They had their licensing issue where it was he wasn't going to fly and he wasn't going to be wearing a suit. And then after a while, they kind of ran through all they could, and then they realized to keep the show going, he's going to have to fly a couple times, and he's going to have to start wearing stuff that has an S on it.
At some point in time. At some point, it's because you got to have the family crest in there sometime.
Yeah, and then the last final episode, you get him ripping open his shirt and super suit underneath, and that was a pretty cool scene. And a lot of people were kind of hoping that there'd maybe be a continuation of that. At the very least, Tom Welling being in Supergirl, but said they had what's his name there?
The dude that's not Henry Cavill, whatever his name is. Caviezel.
Henry Cavill.
There he is.
You're thinking of like the Passion of the Christ guy.
I am. I get the two of them confused constantly.
Yeah.
Well, it's hopefully we kind of pull for as far as like superhero TV shows, and I just use the network ones as the main ones because I think the streaming services kind of have it down. Again, with the exception of one or two, I think they have it on lockdown pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Not that there's a lot of seasons in, but I think they're doing okay. They got a good slow burn going there.
Yeah, I wouldn't even necessarily call them small screen. Like, I'd maybe say that they're more like a medium screen, kind of halfway between the small screen and the big screen of the movies. So
absolutely.
They have the money to play with, and they can kind of attract the actors, and they're not planning on like these long kind of marathon TV seasons. They're doing the short little limited run seasons.
Yeah, well, exactly. They give it to you all at once and say you gobble it up now. You're waiting a year. If not, well, stretch it out.
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing to do.
But then what they do, though, is they go, while you're waiting, we get this other one. Here you go.
Yeah,
taste
exactly.
Oh, you finished that one in one sitting? Oh, we got another one in the pipe.
Yeah, plus it's while you're here, we have all these other originals that you might enjoy as well. And they're not stupid the way that they do it.
Yeah.
They definitely have a better run going than the big networks have going on right now with what they're working with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, on that note, I think that concludes what I have for my rant.
I've pretty much said everything I need to say on it.
Short of storming out and slamming a door, yeah?
Well, more holding my breath until I pass out, but, the similar effect.
Yeah. All right, well, as always, if you enjoyed what you've listened to this time, feel free to fire us a review on iTunes or Podbean. If you have any questions or comments, you feel free to hit us up on our social media of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram.
There's bound to be at least one fan of the Inhumans out there that might be offended.
Oh, yeah, but they might not be allowed on the internet.
I don't think anybody really confesses to it anyway. I think we're safe.
Well, Steve put his hand up, and that's why he's sitting on the other side of the door right now.
Yeah, well, every time we let Steve have a vote, you know what happens. At least he's moved on from Twilight for now.
I think he might have liked the Inhumans because he thought it was kind of like Twilight.
Possible.
Anyways.
That's always possible.
I'm not going down that rabbit hole.
No. Goddamn Steve.
Yeah. All right. Well, we also have that email address at nerdium@gmail.com, and also our website is slowly but surely getting content on it.
Slowly but surely.
So feel free to pop by and give that a quick peek.
Drop us a line, say hi, let us know what you like, let us know what you don't like. Tell us if we were right, tell us if we were wrong. Let us know how much you agree with me and you don't agree with Matt. Until the next time there, guys.
All right. Later.
Have fun.